All right, we still have some folks trickling in, but I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. We've got a lot of great content to cover in the next hour, so I want to get right to it. Looking down the attendee list, I see a lot of familiar faces, which is great, and I see a lot of new ones too. So I'm going to give you a quick introduction, a little bit about the firm, and then I'm going to turn it over to the real stars of the show. So my name is Lucas LaChance. I'm a partner at LGT. I joined the firm in 2007, working initially in audit, and now my role is primarily business development and community outreach. And I want to welcome you today to our 6th installment of our 8-part series of Aiming Towards Success. We are, in this particular session, we'll be focusing on how to win the war for talent. If you haven't had a chance to already, please make sure that you follow us on social media. LinkedIn is our primary social media network. We'll get lots of information about the upcoming installments, as well as anything else that is education related. LGT itself is a full service accounting firm. We do everything that you would expect, which includes assurance services. That's compilations, reviews, and tax work, or compilations, reviews, and audits, as well as tax, state and local, anything federal, and even international tax work. We also have a robust accounting and consulting group that includes business advisory services. And we also have in-house financial planners. So LGT really should be at the top of your list as a one-stop shop for everything you need financially. I am joined today by 2 of my favorite people. I'm very excited about this session. We've had about 30 minutes of banter ahead of this. So, it's been a good time. But I'm joined by Sharon Lukich and Ben Pinto from Thomas Edwards Group. I'm going to turn it over to them to give a little bit about themselves. And then most importantly, let's dive right into how to win the war for talent. Sharon, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to you to start, please.
Awesome. Lucas, thank you for having us. Ben and I are delighted to be here. My name is Sharon Lukich. I am a CPA and a partner with Thomas Edwards Group. We have been in business for almost 26 years here in the Metroplex. We do direct hire and contract placement for our clients here in the DFW area. We specialize in accounting, finance, HR, and IT placements. And we are in this fight in the war for talent with you guys every day, day in and day out. So hopefully some of the things that we share with you today will help you in that war.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Sharon, and thank you, Lucas, Katie, and LGT just for giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about this. You said win the war for talent. This is a free webinar, so to understand how to win, this is just fighting in the war for talent. So no, I'm kidding, but yeah. So let's just dive right in, if that's okay. I think there's a lot to cover here. It's really been interesting what's kind of gone on. I think to understand what the war looks like, it's really kind of understanding kind of where we've come from, in terms of the market. Let's see here. There we go. So yeah, how did we get here? Everybody kind of remembers the fateful date in March of 2020. I mean, we were already in a state of declining unemployment, and then what happened all of a sudden in March of 20 was basically 21 million people lost jobs, and it's one of the greatest rapid declines in employment. And what wasn't expected, I think, was just the rapid recovery. The demand for jobs really kind of came really roaring back, and particularly in some key sectors. And so, one of the things I think to think about here, we're going to go through a few slides here quickly, but just to kind of set up the what transpired. We saw, and Sharon, chime in as well if you want to add anything to some of this, but we saw declining birth rates going on. We saw an increase in deaths. Actually more people died because of the virus in 2021 than in 2020. And then we also saw a tightening of immigration as well. So we just saw a declining potential population for employment in general because of these things. And so what that created was this already slight gap really difference between the people willing to work and the total number of job openings. So while while the recovery, the demand for workers increased really rapidly, the number of people that wanted to work actually shrunk. There were people that, and I think everybody kind of realizes that, and you know, for some key reasons, right? I mean, a lot of people were stuck with situations like this, you know, trying to work from home, and they probably just finally said, "Hey, I can't do this anymore. I got to give up. I'm running out of tape." Right? I mean,
Also not pictured are the random four-legged assistants that are running around, whether it's, you know, cats and dogs joining you on your Zoom calls.
I think the fur babies are the ones that actually really people enjoyed having being around. You know,
Right.
the others maybe not quite so much. But what transpired was just this labor participation rate that was significantly less than it had been in previous years. And so everybody's kind of scratching their head going, where did everybody go? You know, where's all these people? I mean, I really asked somebody else, I said, did I miss the rapture? Because it seems like where have all the people gone?
Right.
And really what's been interesting, this little chart here just kind of shows that the number of people, we've seen a decrease in from ages 20, anybody over 25, and even more over 55, but the shrinking of the fewer people that are wanting to work. So a lot of folks 25 and older are choosing not to work in these traditional employment that we've had in the past. Whereas the 16 to 24, I actually had a client meeting this morning, and one of the things they utilized quite a bit is high schoolers to do some of the work around office and operations and plant and things like that, and found really great success with it. Those 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds are eager to work and were wanting to work. And actually, it's interesting because that's what this kind of chart showed. Thought it was kind of funny.
Ben, I have a I have a question for you.
Mhm.
Prior to the pandemic, and I think maybe the numbers here are kind of bearing this out, but prior to the pandemic, the narrative had really kind of been that particularly the baby boomer generation had been slower to retire. They had been working longer, and part of that also was concerns about the transition of wealth from one generation to another. But it's looking here from the graphs, particularly in the folks 55 to 64, and then even beyond, that a lot of those baby boomers have kind of moved out of the workforce now as a result of the changes that came from the pandemic. Do you think that's a fair statement?
I think that's a very fair statement. In fact, you're almost feeding into the slide. I know you don't even think you really had a chance to see this, but yeah, one of the things, 1.5 million more people retired. This was as of November of 21, actually. So I don't have the latest, but I'm sure even more, although we might see a little bit of a decline since the stock market. But at that point, or since the stock market's come down so much, but this kind of shows the trajectory of where the number of people that were retired as a population were, and then all of a sudden you see this spike during the pandemic just really created a lot more people that were retiring, you know? And so
I think
yeah.
also you're seeing some of those people that are showing up on the rolls as retired, especially when you think about, you know, our audience, right, of finance and accounting professionals. There's a lot of experienced people that retired. However, they're working in fractional situations, right? They're fractional CFOs, or they're working projects, right? Kind of working when they want, on what they want, as often or as little as they want. And those people don't show up on these traditional roles, if you will. So it would show that they're fully retired, but there are plenty of people, especially in accounting and finance, that are working fractionally. And so it's more part-time. So I think there's that piece as well, as they've just gone ahead and said, yeah, I'm retired, but they are still doing a little bit of work.
Yeah, we're really trying over here, trying to build an army, if you will. So this slide is a little more of a joke, really, than anything else, right? Because obviously there are people like Sharon, like you're talking about, that are choosing to work, you know, projects and fractional type work and things. And I'd say we're trying to build an army if we could, of people that have those accounting, finance, HR, IT backgrounds that want to be able to pick and choose the assignments that they want to work on, to be able to stay as busy as they want to be, commit to a 3-month project, and then say, okay, hey, I'll I want to take the summer off. I'm going to Chicago or something. Who knows, right? Maybe more upper peninsula Michigan maybe would be better.
Yes.
But they would do. They could do that, right? And I think we're seeing a lot of it. So certainly a big portion. This slide just kind of shows, kind of why Americans said they didn't work. There were a lot that had chosen to retire. Certainly the other is a big number here, right? And those others are the ones that people are, you're kind of wondering, okay, what does other mean? Sharon, you probably got some ideas on what some of those people are, some of those people are.
Well, I think a lot of those others are your Uber drivers and your Lyft drivers and your mom that got tired or or got called by on CPS or taping her kids to the floor, right? But she maybe she opened an Etsy shop, right? I think there were a lot of people that when they were forced to stop and not be able to go to work, it really gave them this opportunity to say, what do I really want to do? Or, I don't have to work in a traditional kind of environment. Maybe I can piece together a few things, whether it's opening a daycare in your house, right? So people don't tape their children to the floor, right? Etsy shops, consulting, right? Doing these fractional things, finding whatever those God-given talents are that maybe you weren't able to really manifest because you're working 40 hours a week in some kind of a traditional job that now you're not working in. I mean, that 20% is a big number. I mean, I can't see a show of hands, but I don't know anybody that we hear about, oh, there's all these people that are lazy and they don't want to work. And I don't know if any of us on the screen particularly want to work, right? I mean, we love what we do, but what I'm trying to say is I don't know any people that just said, you know what, I'm just not going to work. I'm just not going to do it, right? Either digging their heels in or I'm just not being willing to work. You hear a lot of that. Well, I just can't hire anybody. There's nobody willing to work. Well, I don't think that's the case. And I think that 20% shows those people that have just figured out, whether they're walking dogs or they're painting things now or whatever it is. I think a lot of people have pieced together some different things. They just don't look exactly like what it was that they were doing in the past. That sort of traditional 40-hour a week work week that was governed by a single employer.
Yeah. Before we dive into the specifics of the industry on its own, it's still at a broader scale. The irony here is not lost on me that not so long ago, folks were pretty quick to look down their noses on the idea of a gig economy. And then we have the pandemic, where a gig economy may have been the only way that folks survived. And so I hope that as employers take a look at different flexible arrangements and things like that we'll talk about later, that they understand that they're open to the idea that that their employees are going to do other things as well, other things that are meaningful. Mm-hmm. So, but I remember, God love them. My folks are in their late 70s, and my mother worked only for school districts. And when she was job hunting, you wrote a cover letter with a resume that you mailed in the mail with a stamp to the HR department. So when I would talk about in my career having changed jobs several times, she was always incredibly nervous. She's like, I don't understand how you can just go from one job to another. And I was like, well, because they're giving me more money for starters. But that was a foreign concept to her of changing jobs. She'd always just stayed in education because that's what she wanted to do. But I think now it's a very different a very different framework that we're working with, where people are able to move to different things or try different things. And that's reflected in, like you said, that other that we have, which is, 1 out of every 5 people.
Yeah,
Right.
I think the for a lot of folks who, obviously there were some essential businesses that kept employees, and there were folks that were still working, but for a lot that actually were furloughed or lost their job, they probably pursued some of their interests, their passions, their hobbies, and figured out, hey, I can actually, somebody's willing to pay me to do this, art or yoga instruction or whatever it happens to be, and so they figured it out. And so you're right, Lucas, it might be one of the things, and we didn't even list it here, but being able to be an employer that is flexible about situations like that might be another competitive advantage in the fight for talent.
Mhm.
So what these next slides, I just thought they kind of paint a little bit of a picture. This is just the number of new searches. We kind of track our new searches every week, and just kind of, this visually captures, this was 2019, and then 20, you kind of see what happened in March. So it's a little softer because of the trailing average, but you can still see the decline of what we experienced, as a firm in terms of the number of new searches. And then you see where 2021, I mean, continued. We started seeing in 2020 things picking back up, and certainly then by 2021 just continued to see this kind of rapid, this increasing. And then here's 2022. So you can see there are companies that are hiring. So the reason I wanted to show this was really to just kind of paint the picture that it's not just you, it's not just, it is, this is what's happening in the market. Now, of course, this is accounting, finance, HR, and IT. So there's certainly maybe sectors that are different than this, but this does kind of paint a picture that there's just this fight for talent. Is everybody's trying to hire. There's no shortage of people willing to pay fees, thankfully, to help people find talent. But I would be the first to tell you how hard the job is these days. I mean, it's, like I said, it may not be so hard to sign up a client, but it's hard to delight your clients these days, because of the process is so frustrating for everybody. I mean, candidates are getting multiple offers. They're getting counters to stay where they are. There's all kinds of these things that have to be navigated. And so it really, this kind of just, I wanted to paint the picture, and now we can kind of talk a little bit about how can people attract new talent, because there's lots of things that companies are doing. Providing a gym, hey, that's great. Parking spot might be better, but anyway.
Right.
But so just in terms of attracting, I kind of broke these up into inside the office, outside the office, and then kind of an outside the box kind of section, just to kind of throw some fun ideas. And Sharon, why don't you talk a little bit about some of these? These are some of the things that are, everybody's kind of seeing out there in the market.
Sure. Well, and these are compiled from a lot of our different clients, right? I mean, most of our clients are in the DFW area. They're small to medium-sized businesses. We do some business with large companies, so we have a unique perspective, right? We have probably 250 active clients at any one time, right? So we have the advantage of listening to them to see what are they doing, right? And there's been some really, really good ideas, right? Offering 100% remote. Some of our clients can't do that. Maybe a hybrid environment is something that's available. I think the main thing is make it better, right? Make it better than it was. And some of these things don't really don't cost money, right? So 100% remote or hybrid, more PTO or vacation. We're seeing a lot of our clients go to unlimited PTO. And although it seems scary, none of our clients have indicated that anybody's taking advantage of it, and that they're not being able to manage their deliverables.
That's interesting, Sharon, because I do think as you talk to some of these clients that do have those, a lot of them will say they actually take less PTO than they did before, because if you offer 3 weeks vacation, 4 weeks, everybody's trying to get it all in, they all want to get, whereas, so as if it's going to go away, right? I mean, but
Right,
you offer unlimited and find that somebody's only taking a couple of weeks.
right, right. Salaries and bonuses, right? We've seen a tremendous increase in wage growth and salary growth. I don't know what the numbers are, but I would guess it's anywhere between 10 to 15% easily across the board. Um, companies giving annual bonuses or even spot bonuses, right? There's a lot of project work going on right now, whether it's system implementations, whether it's reviewing processes, whether it's integrating an acquisition, whatever it is. A lot of companies are rewarding some of their people with some spot bonuses because typically it takes a little bit more time, right? They're doing their regular job. And then they also have to take on this project. Benefit plan options. We're seeing everything from, legal defense to pet insurance
Yeah.
to you name it. They're getting really, really, really creative. And I would say that some of the younger generation value some of that, some of the pet insurance, right? Because I think a lot of young people don't think, well, health insurance isn't all that important to me because I'm not sick and I don't really need it. But some of these other things do carry some value to them. Meals, whether it's a stipend for meals or whether it's bringing lunch in or dinner in or having snacks available in the office, that doesn't cost a lot of money and it can go a long way. Dress codes cost you no money. We were talking to a client the other day that has flip-flop Friday, right? So like you get to wear flip-flops in the office, right? Jeans Friday, whatever it is. And I think you've also seen a lot of companies that have relaxed some of their dress code in general. And those are things, once again, they don't cost money, but they do a lot for morale.
I love flip-flop Friday.
Right.
Tuxedo Tuesday.
Yeah. Flip-flop Friday makes me a little apprehensive just because, but
There's
Yeah,
some people you just don't want to see in
you
flip-flops,
don't
right?
want to see
right.
them.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So Ben's going to go ahead and say the quiet part out loud. So Sharon, the benefit plan options, I'm always intrigued by this because I'm not a particularly creative person. I don't think. I love the idea of pet insurance. But have you seen anything that would fall under the benefit plan options category that's truly just like, what?
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be so crazy. I'm trying to think if anything comes to mind so crazy, but sometimes it's just, providing 100% of the benefit plan of the coverage, the premium covered, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that can be expensive, but it again, if you're trying to attract people, because people always want to be able to evaluate the plan and compare it, and they really want to know what it's going to cost, right? Assuming some folks are really relatively healthy, they're looking at the premium. This is just something I'm going to have to pay. But for those that are really looking into the plan, then it's what is the coverage? Is the coverage really good? But being able to pay 100% of the premium is something that's just a great way of separating yourself from the competition out there, right? Sharon, have you heard any kind of crazy benefit plan type of?
I don't know, so crazy. I would say some of the, I don't know, the pet insurance is all that crazy, but it isn't one of the ones that's super, super popular, but I have seen it. And then maybe offering things like Aflac, right? Opening those up. 529 plans, right? Those need to be employer sponsored. And those are very valuable to people with young children. So and like offering something like Legal Shield, right? That's a very reasonably priced benefit that really can benefit the employee. And I think sometimes too, depending on how big the employer is, there can be, just like with associations, there can be bulk pricing that's negotiated, like you get 10% off of shipping FedEx, or you get X number of dollars off or a percentage off of your Costco membership, right? Or a free Costco membership, or a gym membership, things of that nature. That do cost money, but some of those things are very, very valuable to people. And for the most part, we're dealing with accounting and finance professionals, right? So they got a dang spreadsheet going on, right? Okay, I get my Costco membership. I don't have to spend X amount of money, right? And it's not really a benefit plan option, but providing CPE, paying for the CPA license, right? Giving some kind of a stipend of X number of dollars per year that they can use to make sure that they're keeping their CPA license current, and doing it in such a way that they're not just having to scrounge around and find nothing but free webinars. Right. You definitely want to supplement with those, but
okay, so we do have a question in the chat, and I want to get this out really quickly while we have everybody here. So it said, I'm going to paraphrase since it's a little bit lengthy, but the gist of it is this. Traditionally, most employers have frowned upon employees in a 9-to-5 environment having some sort of side gig or side hustle in a gig economy. Do you think it's more advantageous for employers to create a space to be more acceptable of side gigs, to give their employees a better sense of being fulfilled instead of just through a traditional 9-to-5 job only?
I think that really depends on what it is that they do, right? So if I'm working and I love music and I want some flexibility to travel to Austin to play the drums in a band X number of times or whatever, I don't think there's going to be as much pushback there as if you're a tax preparer and you're working in public accounting. They're going to frown upon you having a tax side gig, right? So I really do think it depends, right? If you have a passion for photography, I would think as long as it's not really directly competing with whatever it is that you're doing, that an employer would probably be okay with it. But it's so hard to make sweeping generalizations, right? It's everybody breathes that's alive, right? We can't even say everybody pays taxes, because not everybody pays taxes, right? Like, if you're alive, you breathe. You have to breathe. And that's about the only generalization that we can make, because everything is so it's so fragmented. But I think you are seeing people and employers that are being a little bit more accepting to things like that, as long as it's not in direct competition, right? If you're an architect, you're probably not going to be able to have a gig designing things on
right.
They're gonna frown on that.
Yeah, that was the main thing I was thinking of too, just as long as it's not a competitive situation.
Right. And and hopefully you're still able to perform your normal work responsibilities, right? I mean, that's kind of the key too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's see here. So let's move and kind of along with some of these things we'll probably have covered through. There's some redundancies perhaps, but this is just in terms of attracting talent outside the office, just maybe some ideas that are a little more outside campus recruiting. I mean, just again, starting people, earlier in their career, trying to capture folks. For a lot of companies, they're always been hiring experienced people. Well, starting to make a name for yourself. I think that's what certainly the accounting firms have been doing that for years. I mean, they're on the college campuses. They're trying to share their brand and make people aware of them, and so they can attract that type of talent. Internships, again, the accounting firms have always been utilizing interns, but other companies as well. But I think that's a great way of ensuring kind of sometimes it's a little easier to attract interns, and then they get to experience your culture. They get to experience all the benefits of an organization. So it's a logical place for them to return following graduation and start their career with you. So I think there's another way of just trying to attract and ensure that you've got a constant flow of new talent coming into you, to your business. Lunchtime interviews, just, again, it's a way of attracting people that rather than them having to get away during the workday for an interview, scheduling it during lunch and giving them a free lunch if there's such a thing. Right. So the social media and branding, again, just, I think everybody's kind of aware that you got to be visible and really start branding. And if you're trying to attract people, you got to have some sort of social media strategy and branding strategy there, and philanthropic involvement. I think that's, when you're out there serving together and it's visible, and you come into contact people that generally kind of share maybe some similar interests and passions, and you also get to see them in action a lot of times. So they're the type of person that really works hard during this philanthropic involvement. So just, again, being out there and being visible, and I know we recently went out to a not-for-profit, went over to the North Texas Food Bank, and we were, as a team, and we were all out there, and there were some other teams out there. There were some individuals that were out there just serving, right? Well, what sort of message are they getting when they see a whole team, a company that's dedicated a half day to coming out here and serving together, during the work week? They say, oh, that's something about that company, right? So I think that's a great way of attracting talent as well. And then the signing bonuses, relocation assistance. I mean, there's a lot of people want to come to Texas. So if you can kind of help make a way, it doesn't always have to be, you don't have to necessarily buy somebody's house, but you might give them a relocation allowance or moving allowance, something, a really nice signing bonus. Signing bonuses are always great ways of attracting talent. That could be the difference. You're seeing in the housing market with people having to shell out more money for houses sometimes, or all cash, or waiving certain things. Well, same way with trying to attract the talent, providing signing bonuses, relocation, so cash.
I would add to this too, thinking about philanthropic involvement, it also makes me think of things like professional associations, right? I'll plug it. Of course I will, Lucas, you're laughing at me, but, TXCPA
We'd be disappointed.
Dallas, right?
Just beat me to it, that's all.
TXCPA Fort Worth, or Financial Executives International, or COPUS, right? Or real estate executives, or whatever it is that, I don't know how many of my clients that I know met people that they ended up hiring, right, and attracting because they were involved in an association, not only an association, but perhaps it's your alumni chapter, right? Ben's an Aggie, like Aggies, they're thick as thieves, right? Right. So, thinking about being involved, right? Not just showing up at, a networking event and saying, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I need to hire such and such, right? If you pour yourself into something like, that's philanthropic, or that if you're passionate about something and you pour yourself into it, that attracts other people. You have to set yourself apart, right? Because just like with public accounting, a lot of people are like, well, every public accounting firm is like every other public accounting firm. You all do tax, you all do audit, right? What's the difference? Well, there's huge difference. And so how is somebody supposed to know? How are you supposed to attract somebody from another public accounting firm or from another corporate environment when you're not out there demonstrating to them how it's different and showing them how it's different?
Well said.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was going to pick up on the philanthropic involvement, but you beat me to it. We have a really great question from the chat though, so I want to get this out really quickly. So the question, or the comment in question is this: it seems to me that employers value the idea of loyalty. Do you see that playing out in the marketplace? Is loyalty extinct? I know. I'm glad I don't have to answer first.
Wow.
I would say that our clients in general, once again, in general, when they review a resume that we have presented to them to a permanent opportunity, there are some that are much more sensitive to, we'll call it a job hopper, right? Somebody that's bounced around than others. Okay. Some people have very specific ideas about, well, if you didn't stay with such and such, so, X number of years, that you are this kind of person or that kind of a person. Others don't care so much about it. I would say in general, there isn't as much loyalty out there to a specific company in general. I would say that.
Yeah, but I do think, though, I like the way you said it, Sharon, because I think it says, but they do value it to the degree that they're more likely to want to interview that candidate that has a lot of tenure in their background, right? I mean, they've spent this 5 years at this company, 6 years at this company. Now they're looking to make a change. That candidate generally is going to get looked at, or more likely to get interviewed, versus the candidates change jobs every 2 years, right? Or every year, right? So I think from that standpoint, there is a value placed on that loyalty. They're not necessarily loyal to them yet, but they're going, hey, this is a candidate that probably is more loyal potentially. So let's start with this one and see if this is a good fit for our company, our business. Do they have this? I mean, obviously they got to have the skills and talent. And I think internally, maybe we talk about a little bit at the retaining talent, but if you've got someone that is doing great work for you, and they come to you and just, hey, due to a life change or something, maybe they just need to make some more money, or they need flexibility to run their side gig. I don't know, but something, I would say I know I would want to listen to that and try to accommodate an employee that is doing a great job that I want to keep, right? I mean, yeah. I don't think people really want to lose people.
Yeah.
Hi, I just want to hop in. This is Katie Cook. I'm in the background. I think it's also important to note the generational differences when it comes to the job market. So specifically Generation Z, they're not as loyal when it comes to jobs. If they're not happy with their job, they're going to leave and go somewhere else. So you can see that on Generation Z's resume, as opposed to your Gen Xers who stay at the job for 20 plus years, and that's just something that was done. And so now you're having this new generation come into the workplace, and they're kind of throwing a wrench in everybody's plans because you have more turnover. So I just wanted to include that.
No, I think that's a great point, and because we got to figure out how to retain those Generation Z, right? I mean they're not just leaving to leave; they're leaving because they're not satisfied, or they're not fulfilled, or they don't have a clear why as to what their job entails. Why am I doing this? I need something to hold on to, a mission.
Yep.
Right. So just some outside the box, these are just some other ideas and things. 4-day work weeks, summer hours, open house events. These are things some clients are doing just to try to attract people to come in. Shadowing, giving somebody an opportunity to kind of shadow a day in the life. On-site childcare, dependent care reimbursements. You were asking earlier about benefit type of things. These are some of the things that might be in there as well. PTO before they start, giving them the opportunity to have some time off just to recharge. They might have given 2 weeks notice. They're supposed to start on this day. Hey, give them some time off to just recharge without responsibilities. tuition reimbursement, best places to work competition. What that basically does is if you're a great place to work, that's going to attract talent, right? People want to work for one of those companies.
Yep.
So I'm just trying to be mindful of time too here. So if it feels like I've turned into a little higher gear, talent retention, how do we retain existing talent? Just try to have a little fun. We want to keep the good ones, right? So inside the office, Sharon, I mean, you kind of touched on a lot of these are some redundancies here, but hybrid policies. I know our hybrid policies morphed a little bit. We're really trying to listen. It's the communication and transparency. Listen to our employees and trying to protect culture and ensure proper training and onboarding for new hires, but at the same time, recognizing that our employees did a fantastic job during the pandemic. I mean, of working remotely and delivering to our clients. So just we're listening, and I think that's really goes a long way is trying to listen. And we just recently had one of the things that people had talked about was, or there was rumblings. Everyone was concerned about inflation and possible recession and what's going to happen. Well, we dedicated a whole staff meeting, which is about an hour and a half time, and our founder and president, Cliff Edwards, he just laid out what all the information, what he's been hearing in the market, what news has been saying, also what we've done in recessions past. We've been, as Sharon said, almost 26 years. We've been through some recessions during that time, so we've got experience and we know how to respond. And just in terms of where we are financially and everything else, just trying to be transparent, and I think that's really helpful for retaining talent. Promotions, possibly early promotions, right? I mean, a little off-cycle promotions, just again to try to retain talent. A lot of times people have their annual, raises and annual, promotions. Rather than do that, let's do a spontaneous. Why do we have to wait? Breakfast, lunches, we talked about meals in the office, but employee recognition, Sharon mentioned spot bonuses. Yeah, just a spot bonus or a reward or award. I mean, hey, we just got through the audit, and everybody worked overtime to do it. Let's give some sort of recognition and award for that.
You can do those on an annual basis. We have what we call the TEGI Awards, right? So
Yeah.
At the end of the year, at the beginning of the year, we look at, the rookie of the year, and we look at who, beat their stats or whatever. And I think it was a $25 Amazon gift card. I don't know, right? I mean, some of these do cost money, but not gobs and gobs. I have another client that is a privately held company, and there's about 25 people within the company, and they beat some kind of crazy sales goal, and the owner got $100 bills and went around and gave everybody $100 bill, right? There was another one that was requiring his people to come into the office at least a couple of times a week. And especially when gas was really out of control, he went and got $50 bills and handed everybody in the office a $50 bill to sort of cover a tank of gas, right? So, some of the big companies, those turn into to big dollars, but some of those things can go a really, really, really long way. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. I think what your employees really want to know is that they're valued, right? A lot of employees leave. It's not always about the money, right? They don't feel like they're valued. They don't feel like somebody's listening to them. They don't feel like they're appreciated, right? So even if it's making sure that you give attaboys and attagirls, I mean, you would be surprised at how many people, when we interview people, they're like, I don't think my boss appreciates me, or I don't get along so well with my boss, right? So some of those connection things with your employees and with your peers and with your boss, those things are big, because a lot of people don't, they avoid conflict, right? And so they just, oh, well, my boss did something that made me mad, so I'm going to start looking to leave, right? And your boss can't even cure what it is that you're mad about because you didn't say anything. So, so that's where some of that communication and transparency comes in too, because it is expensive as all get out to lose a person. It is expensive. And even if it's difficult to have a difficult conversation, even if it makes you squirm in your seat a little bit, it costs you $50 every quarter to keep some people happy. I mean, we've got a whole other presentation about how costly it is to replace people, and it can be up to 3 times the amount of their salary. And it can, these are some things that can help you try and avoid it.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Sharon, because I just noticed one of the questions was how much does it cost to train an employee? You know, what is the average time for the learning curve? You know, and I mean, obviously that varies in different businesses and everything else, but that you kind of gave some weight to it there. It could be 3 times. Is that what you said? 3? Yeah.
I've seen things all the way from 1.6 times to 3 times. And it depends on how you quantify that, that sort of downtime in the training time, right? And a lot of that does depend on how complicated something is, right? Getting somebody up to speed on a high net worth tax return, right, is different than teaching an AR clerk maybe a new software, right? It's hard to say, but it's expensive as all get.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it becomes losing somebody then puts a strain on the whole rest of the team for a while until you're able to hire and replace, and that creates its own problem, right? So it's a little bit, can become a domino effect of, oh, now it's magnified, the problems. So kind of some other ideas just outside the office, stay interviews. You know, we talk a little bit about that. I mean, that's where that communication comes, right? You're talking to employees about what hey, I know in ours, we're asking, hey, are there other jobs here at Thomas Edwards Group that you'd kind of be interested in? What would you, what level of interest would you place on, going over onto the contract team or being in business development or, on the direct hire side, what is it? Or going to IT, so just being able to move around a little bit, getting some interest, getting talking about some of these kinds of things is really good. The philanthropy days, we talked a little bit about that. Happy hours, those are always fun. I'm always up for a happy hour, so.
Noted.
Banking, banking overtime for PTO. We talked a little bit about unlimited, but including family, spouse, guests at events. I think that's another way. What we're trying to do is kind of create this environment of I don't want to use the term family too much. Family can send all kinds of different messages, but including other people that are important to them in events kind of helps. I like the fact that Sharon knows, my wife and my kids, and I don't know. I feel more of a part of things, to be known and to know others. I think that's a great thing.
It also vests those people, right? Amy's vested in, right? Like if you ever decided, oh man, I don't know, but Amy's going to be like, wait a minute.
You ought to have your head. You ought to have your head examined. What are you doing? Thinking about leaving. So, let me remind you what it was like before.
Chad comes with me to all of our corporate events, and everyone likes Chad better. That's the bottom line.
Amy's the same way. That's the risk you run, right?
That's why I said Amy.
Everyone likes Chad better, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Okay. All right.
We need another hour.
We really do.
Executive coaching for key leaders, that's something that's been really good. And recreational sports leagues or something, getting people together outside of the office competing, it's just can be kind of another way of of retaining people, right? I mean, they're not only they're leaving the company, but they're leaving their softball team. You know, I mean, that's hey, they got such a good pitcher. Now what do we do? I don't know.
There's I know we're about 10 minutes out, but one thing I did want to add while we were on this screen though is a young professionals group, a YP group, just helping folks that come into the firm early on in their careers really establish those connections. You said something earlier too that I thought was a great phrase, and that is protecting culture. But getting new folks that come into your firm or your company assimilated into that culture, tying them in by introducing them to their peers. I think a young professionals group also goes a long way, and they do stuff like the recreational sports and stuff like that too. I mean, so I think that's another tie-in.
That's great. That's
Even
great.
assigning like an informal mentor. I mean, a lot of public accounting firms have formal mentorship programs, but even if you're a small company, I mean, you can do that, right? Having somebody that's informal that you look up to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
bounce ideas off of.
Right. It was one of the items on one of the other slides, just the employee engagement kind of surveys and listening places. Some of the things that come out of that. I mean, a management training program is something that's being discussed, right? I mean, so those kinds of things saying, hey, what do we have anything really formal that we can create, put something together, lunch and learns, providing equipment for work from home. A lot of people are, even if you're doing the hybrid thing, or do you have a laptop or equipment that you can use? We talked about off-cycle raises and promotions, health and wellness days, right? Just having, those are some of the things that our clients are doing, contests and, some other type of allowances, things like that. This is just, some of the outside the box, maybe ideas.
We've got a client that's bringing in like a chair massage therapist, right? Put them on a Friday or whatever, and giving, those free 10, 15-minute chair massages, yoga classes. I mean, there's it, and some of this is in that employee engagement survey, right? We just came out of one, and we implemented a couple of things, and we're trying to implement a couple of other things, right? It's like, why should we in leadership and the partners be telling our employees what we're going to do, right? Why not ask them what's valuable to them? Because there's certain things that's like, well, we wouldn't have thought of that, right? But gee whiz, if you give us popcorn instead of potato chips, we love that, right? Well,
or what's important to me might not be as important to 75% of the company, whereas what's important to 75% of the company wasn't necessarily important to me. So what I might have implemented would have only satisfied the small percentage. So this way we're able to capture all that information and go, okay, well, let's start implementing these things that are the most important to the most people.
Right.
I think it's important, especially in a leadership role, if you're going to conduct a survey like that, where you gather that type of information, there should be some visible, demonstrable result that comes from that. So it's frustrating on the employee side. It's frustrating as I'll get out, to give that information and then never see it come to fruition. Like, you asked what we wanted, we told you what we wanted, and then here we are 6 months later and nothing has changed. Well, then you're sending actually the opposite message. You really don't care about what is important to us. You're going through some mechanics.
It is important.
It is important. We have
the messaging there goes both ways.
Right. We had a committee, so you had some visibility, because the committee was made up of, not just partners, but, a representation of the firm. And so you had visibility there, and then also discussions and some accountability, saying, okay, we got to implement something,
Right. Pick two things, right?
Yeah.
And then we told everybody, we're going to implement two things, right? We can't implement it all. Just like you said, just because one person said something doesn't mean everybody's going to get
a massage chair.
Right.
Doesn't mean we're going to get a massage chair.
Ben.
Yeah, my back.
All right, let's see. we covered, the good news is we covered all the questions that came in through the chat.
Oh, good.
I know we've got a few minutes left, but you've got some supplementary data here too, Ben, correct?
Oh, did you? I did, but did you really want to? Okay, well, it's kind of interesting. I don't know, just the monthly job changes of what we kind of saw. This is just kind of that. These are just the information out of the U.S. Labor Department. And then, but we were talking a little bit about income. I thought this was an interesting graph. Just kind of shows where the wage growth was. We've seen wages increasing as well, right? I mean, so that's this whole great resignation has really prompted a lot of people are just bidding. It's a bidding war a little bit. It's probably driven this inflation, as well as been all these higher salaries trying to attract talent. You know, it was relatively flat. I mean, what we saw particularly of interest to me was this bottom 25% of income wage earners. I mean, they have historically always been low. We didn't see much wage growth. I made the comment that it was interesting when I first joined Thomas Edwards Group in 2010, kind of what an AP clerk or payroll clerk was making in 2010 was about the same as they were making in 2014. And so sure enough, we started seeing some of these things going up, which is great because, man, it's hard to provide when you've got, you got everything else is going up in value. Everything else should be going up. Those incomes should be going up. So I don't know. I like the slide. Just seeing that it's a little contrary to what you'll hear a lot of times is, people think, oh, well, the top 25% is the one who's making all the money. Well, not according to the, Federal Reserve Bank, I guess it was of Atlanta here, and the Washington Post article. So it's actually been the opposite. The greatest increase has come from the bottom 25%.
And we're running pretty close to our time up here. And I want to have an opportunity again to thank my two very dear friends, Sharon and Ben, for taking their time out to put this together for us and to give us a lot of insight. It's always great to get the opportunity to kind of peek behind the curtain. I cannot stress enough, if you are looking for someone in the IT or accounting or finance industries, please do yourself a favor, reach out to my friends at Thomas Edwards Group. They are amazing and will find you the absolute top talent. I also want to say to everybody who joined us, thank you so much for carving out time this afternoon with us. We really appreciate it. We do these events and these webinars for your benefit. So it's always great. It's always great to have you participate with us. That is right down to the wire. Again, Sharon, Ben, thank you so much. It's been great talking with you. And everybody else, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you'll catch us next month.
Thank you,
Bye,
Lucas.
everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great week.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lucas.
Bye.
Bye-bye.